Hello friends, in this video tutorial, we will learn how to load MySQL table data in jQuery data table with server-side processing of data using Node.js. Under this tutorial, we will load huge MySQL data under jQuery Datatables and also show you how can we perform server-side process of data and load data in jQuery data table with feature like server-side liver searching, sorting and generate pagination link. In short, we will show you how to use jQuery data table with Node.js. Now let's start discussing this topic. So this is our testing database. And under this, we have one customer table with table column like customer first name, customer last name, customer email and customer gender. And under this table, we have already inserted around 10,000 data. So we will fetch data from this table and load in jQuery data table under our Node.js application with server-side processing of data. Now under this tutorial, we will use Node.js Express framework. So first we need to download and install Node.js Express Application. So for this, we have go to command prompt and first go into Node directory in which we want to download and install Node Express Application. And here we have create one Node data table directory. And then after, we have goes into Node data table directory. So under this directory, we will download and install Node.js Express Application. So first, we want to install Express generator. So we have to run following command. So this command will install Express generator. Next we want to install Express Application. So for this, we have to run following command. So this command will install Express Application. And in the above command, AJS is a template engine of the Express framework which we will use in Node application. So after running the above command, you will get following instructions. Next we want to install dependencies, so we have to run following command, which will install Node.js Express framework dependencies. So this command will install Node.js Express Application dependencies. After this, we have go to text editor, and here, we can see that Express Application directory structure. Now we want to make database connection, so first we need to download MySQL module. So here in command prompt, we have to run following command. So this command will download and install Node Express MySQL module. Now we have go to text editor, and here we want to create database connection file. So here, we have create new JavaScript file in the root folder with file name like database.javascript, and here we will use this file for make MySQL database connection. And under this file, we have to write constant MySQL variable is equal to require function. And under this function, we have to write MySQL. So by using this code, it will include MySQL module under this file. After this, we want to define configuration for creating MySQL database connection. So here, we have to write constant connection variable is equal to MySQL.create connection function, so this function will make MySQL database connection. And under this function, we have to define MySQL database configuration in the JSON format. So first, we have to define host for MySQL database connection. So in first key, we have to write host, and in value, we have to write localhost. Next, we want to define database name from which we want to connect our Node application. So for this, in the key, we have to write database. And in value, we have to write testing after this. We want to define user name of the MySQL database. So for this, in the key, we have to write user. And in the value, we have to write root. And lastly, in MySQL database configuration, we want to define password of the MySQL database. So for this, here we have to write password, and in the value, we have to write blank. So after define this configuration, it will try to make MySQL database connection. Now we want to execute MySQL database connection. So for this, we have to write connection.connect function. So this function has been used for create a MySQL connection. And under this function, we have to write one callback function with error as parameter. Under this function, we have to write if statement. And under condition, we have to write error variable. So this condition will check if there is any error occur. Then it will execute if block of code, and under this block, we have to write throw error, so it will display database connection error. But suppose there is no any error occur, then it will execute else block of code. And under this block, we have to write console.log function. And under this function, we have to write MySQL database is connected successfully. Lastly, we want to publish this MySQL database connection. So for this, here we have to write module.exports is equal to connection variable. So here, our MySQL database connection code is ready. After this, we have go roots directory, and open index JavaScript file. And under this file, first we want to make MySQL database connection. So here we have to write database variable is equal to require function, and under this function, we have to write part of the database connection file, which will make MySQL database connection. Now for load HTML web page, so we have go to get root. And here, we can see that index template file has been loaded. And this file we will use for display HTML output on the web page. Now we have go into views directory, and open index template file. First we have remove this code, and paste this sample HTML code. And now here, we have already included Bootstrap library link, jQuery library link and DataTable library link. After this, under this table, we have create one HTML table with id customer data. So this id attribute value, we will use for initialize jQuery DataTable plugin. Under this table, we have create one table heading tag. And under this tag, we have create one table row tag. And between this tag, we have create four table head tag for display first name, last name, email and gender data. After this, we have create table body tag. This tag is required for load data in DataTable. So here our HTML code is ready. Now we have go into jQuery code part. And here we have to write DataTable variable is equal to $selector with table id customer data, with DataTable function. This function will initialize jQuery DataTable plugin. Under this function, we have write first option processing, which is set to true, so it will display processing icon on web page while fetching of data. In second option, we have to write server side option, which is set to true, so it will enable server side processing. In third option, we have to write server method. And here we have to write get, so it will use get method for sending data to server side script. In fourth option, we have write Ajax, and under this option, we have to write URL option, which is set to get data route, so it will send Ajax request to this URL. After this, for disable default data table sorting, so here we have to write AA sorting option, and in value, we have write blank array. After this, for define column data, here we have to write column options. Under this, for define customer first name table data, in first column. Here we have to write data option, and in value, we have to write customer first name table column name. After this, for define customer last name table data, in second column. So here we have to write data option, and in value, we have to write customer last name table column name. In third column, we want to define customer email table data column. So here we have to write data option, and in value, we have to write customer email table column name. And in last table column, we want to display customer gender table column data. So here we have to write data option, and in value, we have to write customer gender table column name. So here our jQuery code is ready. Now we have go to index JavaScript file. And here we want to create route for handle Ajax request. So for this, here we have to write router variable.get function with two parameter. In first parameter, we have to write /get data, and in second parameter, we have to write callback function with three parameter like request, response and next variable. Under this function, first here, we have stored jQuery datatable data, which has been sent, while sending of AJAX request, which we want to store in local variable. So here we have to write, draw variable is equal to request.query.draw variable. So here we have stored draw variable data, in local variable. After this, we have to write, start variable is equal to request.query.start. So here we have stored, start variable data, in local variable. Next we have to write, length variable is equal to request.query.length. So here, we have stored length variable data, in local variable. After this, for store order variable data, so here we have to write order data variable is equal to request.query.order variable. After storing jQuery datatable data, into local variable. Now first we want to set property, for sorting of data. So here we have to write, if statement, and under condition. We have to write, type of order data variable is equal to undefined. If this condition true, that means default sorting of data is disabled. Then it will execute, if block of code, and under this block, we have to write. Column name variable is equal to customer table.customer id column name. So here we have defined column name, and based on this column value, data will be sorting. Next for define column sorting order, so here we have to write column sort order variable is equal to descending, so here we have defined sorting order. But suppose we have click on any table column for sorting of data, then it will execute else block of code. And under this block, first we want to get column index number. So for this, here we have to write column index variable is equal to request.query.order 0 index with column, so it will return column index number. So after getting column index number, now we want to get column name, so for this, here we have to write column name variable is equal to request.query.columns variable with column index and data, which will return column name. After this, for get sorting order details, so for this, here we have to write column sort order variable is equal to request.query.order with 0 index and direction, so it will return sorting direction data. After getting sorting data, now we want to get search value data. So for this, here we have to write search value variable is equal to request.query.search variable with value index, which will return search text box value. Now we want to write search query for search data in all four table column. So here, we have to write search query variable is equal to tilde character. And between this, we have to write AND operator with open and close bracket. And between this, first we want to write search query for search data in customer first name table column. So here, we have to write customer first name like percentage icon. After this, we have to write $sign with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write search value variable. After this, for search data in customer last name table column data. So here, we have to write OR operator with customer last name table like percentage sign. And after this, we have to write $character with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write search value variable. After this, for search data in customer email table column data. So here, we have to write OR operator with customer email table column like %sign. And after this, we have to write $character with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write search value variable. After this, for search data in customer gender table column data. So here, we have to write OR operator with customer gender table column like %sign. And after this, we have to write $character with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write search value variable. So here, we have stored search query in search query variable. Now we want to get total number of records without filtering. So for this, here we have to write database variable.query function with 2 parameter and in first parameter. We have to write MySQL query. So for this, here we have to write select count star as total from customer table, and in second parameter, we have to write callback function with 2 parameter like error variable and data variable. Under this function, we have to write total records variable is equal to data variable with 0 index.total. So here, we have store total number of records without filtering in local variable. After this, we want to get total number of records with filtering of data. So for this, here we have to write database variable.query function with 2 parameter. In first parameter, we have to write MySQL query. So for this, here we have to write select count star as total from customer table where 1 and for search query. We have already stored in search value variable. So here we have simply write open and close bracket, and between this, we have to write search query variable, which will make select query with filtering of MySQL table data. Now in second parameter, we have to write callback function with 2 parameter like error and data variable. Under this function, we have to write total records with filter variable is equal to data variable with 0 index.total. So here we have stored total number of records with filtering in local variable. Now we want to write query for fetch data from customer table. So for this, here we have to write query variable is equal to open and close tilde sign, and between this, we have to write select star from customer table, and in where condition, we have to write 1. Now for search query, which we have already write and stored under this search query variable. So here we have simply write $sign with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write search query variable. After this, for sorting of data, here we have write order by. And after this, we have to write $sign with open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write column name variable, and after this, we have to write $sign open and close bracket, and between this, we have to write column sort order variable. So it will add sorting data condition under select query. Now we want to add fetch limit condition under select query. So here, we have to write limit, and after this, we have to write $sign with open and close bracket, and between this, we have to write start variable, comma, $sign open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write length variable. So here our query is ready for fetch data from MySQL table. Now below this query, we have to write data array variable, and under this variable, we will store customer table data, which we will send to jQuery DataTable AJAX request in JSON format. After this, we want to execute above query. So here we have to write database variable.query function with 2 parameter. In first parameter, we have to write query variable, and in second parameter, we have to write callback function with 2 parameter like error variable and data variable. This function will return query execution result, which we can fetch from this data variable. So now we want to fetch data from this data variable. So for this, here we have to write data dot for each loop, and under this, we have write callback function with row argument. So from this row variable, we can fetch single row of data. Now under this function, we have to write data array variable.push function. This function will store data under this data array variable in array format. Under this function, we have to write customer first name key. And in value, we have to write row.customer first name table column. In second key, we have to write customer last name. And in value, we have to write row.customer last name table column. In third key, we have to write customer email, and in value, we have to write row variable.customer email table column. And in last key, we have to write customer gender, and in value, we have to write row variable.customer gender table column. So on every loop, it will store customer table column data under this data array variable. After this, we have to write output variable is equal to array object. In first key, we have to write draw, and value, we have to write draw variable. In second key, we have to write total records, and in value, we have to write total records variable. After this, in third key, we have to write total display records, and in value, we have to write total records with filter variable, and in last key, we have to write AA data, and in value, we have to write data array variable. So here, we have stored data, which we want to send to jQuery DataTable AJAX request, in JSON format. So for send data in JSON format, here we have to write response.json function. And under this function, we have to write output variable. So it will send this data to jQuery DataTable AJAX request, and display in jQuery DataTable. So here our code is ready. Now we have to check output in the browser. So first we have go to command prompt, and now we want to start Node server. So for this, here we have run this command, which will start Node server. Now in the browser, we have typed localhost : with 3000 port number. And here on the web page, we can see that customer table data has been loaded in jQuery DataTable. And here, we can see that by using jQuery DataTable, it has converted simple HTML table into fully functional table, in which we can live searching of data, sorting of data. And it has create dynamic pagination link, without write any line of code. Here we can see, first 10 records on web page. Now we have inspect element code, and goes into network tab. Now we have click on the second page link, so after click on the second page link. So it has been send AJAX request to get data root, and at server side it has fetched next page record under Node.js script, and after this, it has received data in JSON format. So here, we have do server-side processing of data in Node.js and load data in jQuery DataTable. Same way, we have typed something in search box, so here in network tab, it has sent AJAX request, and from server side it has received data in JSON format. Now we want to sorting of data, so here we have click on this gender column, and after click, here we can see that it has sent AJAX request to Node.js script, and received data in JSON format. So on every event, it has sent AJAX request to server, and at server side, it process data and send back data to AJAX request in JSON format. So this way, we can create server-side process of jQuery DataTable in Node.js with MySQL Database, and load data without refreshing of web page, because it has sent AJAX request. So in this part, we have learned, now can we use jQuery DataTable with Node.js Express Application and do server-side processing of MySQL data, and load in jQuery DataTable, using Node Express Application. So here we have stopped this tutorial. We will meet with some new interesting tutorials.